Piccolo, Bulma, and Frieza arrive on planet Namek, although they sense various power levels, higher than they could have ever expected for regular Namekians. It's a bit strange, seeing as they're supposed to be a peaceful race of farmers, although Piccolo is an outlier, so maybe there are a couple more. Nevertheless, they begin looking for the Dragon Balls, and Bulma would begin to resync the Dragon Ball radar. That way it can sense Namekian Dragon Balls rather than just Earth Dragon Balls. They have similar frequencies, so it's not too hard. The first one they find is not too far away from where they landed. It belongs to Grand Elder Guru, a Elder Namekian who is actually the person linked to this set of Dragon Balls. He warns them of a threat that arrived to their planet not too long ago. One that actually somewhat resembles the group currently in front of him. There was a humanoid figure as well as somebody who looked strikingly similar to Frieza, although he can't give exact details. It was his foresight that was able to perceive this, not his actual eyes. Nail interjects as he has actually gone out in search of this group, making sure it didn't come near Guru's house, as well as wanting to get a better understanding of who exactly they were dealing with. One of them was certainly a frost demon, or whatever race Frieza comes from, although the other didn't appear to be human. In fact, they were more akin to what Nail has heard of Saiyans, having monkey tails and spiky black hair, as well as wearing a particular set of armor, usually reserved only for the Saiyans and other members of the Cold Force, or whatever they go by nowadays, as King Cold has been long dead and therefore couldn't run the army. Frieza would say that he knows under a hushed breath because King Cold is his father after all. Guru can sense Frieza's unease and decides to switch the subject, saying that he has an ability that can draw out their latent potential, increasing their power a couple of times over, allowing for them to probably combat whatever this threat is. Piccolo would be first up to get this awakening, and he unlocks a form that's somewhat akin to Frieza's golden one. There definitely still is a gap in power between the two of them, although their forms are a similar boost. As for Frieza, he actually rejects the offer, because even though he could get this extra power up and he's definitely not prideful, he'd rather spend his time gathering the Dragon Balls. He made a promise to bring somebody's friends back, and Frieza himself also has some people he wants to restore. So as long as he can get the Dragon Ball, then he'll protect the planet with his life, and definitely doesn't need to have his potential unlocked to do that. Guru agrees and hands over the Wish Orb. Frieza would then head off, and he would actually do this alone, as Bulma realizes that it's probably safer to stay with these other guys than go off with Frieza exploring, and Piccolo honestly just wants to spend some more time conversing with the Grand Elder and somebody who seems to be in the same boat as Piccolo himself. A warrior amongst a normally peaceful race. Him and Nail are kindred spirits, similar in nature and would get along quite well. It wouldn't take Frieza long to find another one or maybe even two Dragon Balls, although this same could be said for encountering the other visitors to this planet. He would quickly encounter the likes of Turles. He is immediately on guard, believing this to be Kakarot, somehow brought back from the dead. Although when he says this, Turles actually takes offense. He's an outcast from the Saiyan race, a space pirate if you will, although he has no relation or correlation to that madman that rules the Saiyans now. He is the farthest thing from a king, and he is the opposite of Kakarot, even if they do have strikingly similar appearances. And the only reason for that is because they're both low-class warriors, or only one of them is now. Either way, Turles is still upset by this comment and wants to prove to Frieza just how different he and Kakarot really are. Now, that's me saying that, not Turles, because Turles wouldn't know that Frieza killed Kakarot and thus wouldn't be making comment. Turles would power up, although not into Super Saiyan as you might expect, because he would never achieve that form. He still believes it's a legend only one man can achieve in every 1,000 years, so instead he pursued a different path, mastering the Ozaru form. Sadly, he wouldn't achieve Ikari, because as some of you have pointed out, I tend to use that a little too much in my stories. Rather, he creates a power ball, now not having to drop his power to use it. Then, with a burst open and mix, he transforms into a great ape. But just for the record, he absolutely could have and should have achieved Akari here. I'm just doing this because it's a little bit cooler than using Akari for the 17,000th time. Frieza stands in absolute awe at the power of the Ozaru, before then proclaiming, "You're a monkey!"
God damn, that was racist.
I'll admit, out of context, that probably sounds horrible. However, in context, Turles did just turn into a giant monkey. Jokes aside, Frieza would transform into his golden form before then practically one-tapping Turles. He's incredibly powerful. Frieza would even admit that he's probably stronger than Kakarot in his golden-haired form. Although Frieza is a couple of transformations surpast that, so it doesn't really matter. He'd be able to easily defeat the Ozaru before then waiting for him to regain consciousness. It takes about an hour, but eventually Turles would wake up, although now reverted to his base form. He would ask why Frieza spared him, and the Frost Demon just says he probably knows where the dragonballs are. Past his more selfish reasons for sparing the Saiyan, he also isn't a murderer. Well, he's not a stone-cold killer. He will, however, take you out if you pose a threat to him or his friends. Liking this more merciful outlook from someone that strong, Turles decides to side with Frieza for the time being, at least until he regains contact with the rest of his group, at which point he will either fight off Frieza or pretend to have been his hostage. Either way, he doesn't want to get on the bad side of either faction right now. Understanding this, as well as wanting to play cops and robbers, he decides to create a pair of energy handcuffs. That way it plays more into the facade of Frieza taking prisoners. Eventually they would come in contact with a Namekian village that has a Dragon Ball, being led by Elder Mori. He would question Frieza as to why he wants the Wish Orb because obviously the Frost Demon would ask for it, even though Turles would suggest a more merciless approach. This does go to slightly hinder their ability to gather the Dragon Ball from Elder Mori, although since he is currently in handcuffs, Turles' feelings aren't entirely taken into consideration. Rather, it's Frieza's motives, and his intentions are pure. Elder Mori can sense this from his key signature, as well as Frieza explaining they're just trying to revive their friends. And even though slightly reluctant, Elder Mori would still decide to hand over the Dragon Ball, and his worries are eased when he can sense that Frieza's heading over to Elder Guru's place, meaning that he wasn't lying when he said that he knew the Guardian, and was having the Dragon Balls be kept there. Plus, Nail's a pretty strong warrior, the best they have, so if Frieza was somehow villainous, Nail stands the best chance. Not a great one, but the best one. And this is how every other interaction with a Namekian village leader would go. Frieza would arrive at the village, explain his intentions, and they would hand over the Dragon Ball. Each time, Frieza's more and more convincing as he's talked with other village leaders. By the time the day's done, meaning the group gets tired, not the sun sets, because there's 2 on Namek, so it can't, the group would have already gathered 5 out of the 7 Dragon Balls, meaning they're on their way to summoning Porunga. Although, there is a bit of a roadblock. The fact that they've already found 2 villages that don't have Dragon Balls, and assuming that their regular set on Namek is just like on Earth, those last 2 Wish Orbs are necessities for summoning Porunga. So if they want to summon the dragon, they're going to have to face off against some pretty villainous guys. The type that would slaughter entire villages just to get what they want. The kind that Turles was rolling with just the day before. Obviously, now everybody is suspicious of the Saiyan. However, he reassures that he's not going to align himself with those type of guys anymore. He's come to realize that killing people just to get what you want isn't really cool. Plus, he never really liked them anyway. They were always rude to him and thought he was the odd one out since he was the only Saiyan, and was admittedly the weakest member of the group. That last part catching everybody save Frieza off guard, because Turles is the second strongest member of the group now, right behind Frieza. Post Zenkai in his grade 8 form, he should be about as strong as legendary Super Saiyan Goku. Whoever he was hanging out with before has to be incredibly astronomically powerful to make him look weak. To which Frieza says, of course they are. Their leader's his brother. Even Turles is surprised by this. Knowing both of them firsthand, he could have guessed they were from the same race, although being brothers, that shocks him. Does explain their comparable, unimaginable strength though. Piccolo is more surprised at the fact that Frieza knew.
Of course I knew. He came to Earth a couple of times trying to recruit me to his armored squadron. Okay, but why not tell us about this?
Well, none of you ever asked, so I just assumed you wouldn't be interested. First rule of Master Roshi's training. Only speak when spoken to, or you'll annoy the old man.
Well, if he knows you, then maybe we can just ask him for the Dragon Balls.
Oh no, he'd murder all of you. He slaughtered 2 entire villages to get those wish orbs. He'll clearly stop at nothing to get the rest.
So what? Not even you with your golden form can beat him?
Nah, I'd win. But what makes you think I'd want to kill my own brother? I mean, Piccolo, this is really just to save me some time. I'm impatient, but I'm not stupid. We should hand over the rest of the Dragon Balls before other Namekians get hurt.
I appreciate the sentiment, trying to protect my people, but I would advise against that decision.
Grand Elder, we can handle this without any more bloodshed. Isn't that what you want?
If that monster, currently terrorizing our planet, gets the wish orbs, the entire universe is at risk.
Well, good luck stopping him, cause I'm heading home.
You will do no such thing. The Grand Elder demands your aid.
Nails says, putting his hand on Frieza's shoulder, stopping him from walking out the door.
If you want to keep that hand, I suggest you move it.
The rare scene of pure murderous intent in Frieza's eyes causes Nail to step back. All eyes are on Frieza as he stands in the doorway. Nobody knows what he'll do next.
Fine. I'll go talk to my brother.